All right. Trevor.
Michael.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, Fitch Research, we did a survey of 300 plus companies, redefining work, AI, and the future of talent. So, we surveyed companies across various sectors to understand their application of AI at the enterprise-wide level, what results they're seeing, and how it's actually impacting things like job loss, job creation. So I'll let you introduce the scope.
Okay. As you said, just over 300 organizations, 200,000 employees. And really for us, it was to try and understand where we were on that AI journey. How or if it was working, who's still at the experimental stage or individual stage with AI, and who's starting to scale that up from pilot through to enterprise scale. So I think the survey was very interesting. Couple of notable outcomes. So maybe in a lot of cases, organizations are getting bored down pressure to develop AI and use AI. And some key challenges are that, maybe the knowledge base isn't there, the training or the education's not there around AI. Another thing that we certainly saw through the report was no clear AI head. So lots of people doing lots of things at individual level or even functional level, but very little at enterprise level. And the other thing was that we saw that there's a real drive to get AI in where maybe the technology hasn't actually gotten there yet. So good ideas, good concepts, definitely part of the future, but there's some challenges there around whether the technology can deliver on some of those operational improvements that all the organizations are looking for.
Right. I think a key takeaway is that we can agree there is a tangible benefit to integrating it when it comes to things like automation, cost efficiencies, administrative tasks.
Yep.
I think where things are still a bit ambiguous is the impact that it has when it's done at the enterprise-wide level, when you're scaling it across all functions.
Yeah.
So I think one of the big takeaways of this report is that reality doesn't really match the hype at this time, because when it comes to assessing the business upside, that's still a challenging question for companies to answer.
Yeah.
And then, in terms of how it impacts human capital, only 7% of respondents report actual job loss due to this.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing some merge in responsibilities as AI makes improvements. There's more activities, more responsibilities added in. So that's the predominant flavor of the output in terms of where AI is getting to. I mean, there's still a lot of optimism around what AI can deliver, but it's still quite fragile. Like, more is expected of all of us now that we've got AI than pre-AI. So without it really having what are seen as the natural benefits of AI. So I think organizations need to be cautious that, what you do not want is a workforce that is not engaging with AI because there's a fear of job losses. That's a tools down situation where people, in some cases, will be resistant to using AI. So I think people need to you need to be adopting AI for the right reasons. Performance improvement rather than cost reduction. Optimization to get a bit of better work-life balance. Those are the kind of things that really can help show the employees that AI is a really good initiative for all of us to engage with.
Right. Like use for growth, enablement.
Exactly. Yeah. Rather than protect you a bit there or grow you a bit there. Yeah, I think that's the balance. It can do both, but I think if you do it for one reason and that leads to the second, I think that's the natural win.
That's a good prediction. to your point, in terms of the things that it can't replace, I would say 9 out of 10 CFOs that I'd speak to would all say that FP&A, financial planning and analysis, is what separates the most exceptional people, right? Because essentially what those people are doing is not just crunching numbers, coming up with the data, but it's the interpretation of the data. So they're convincing the most senior stakeholders that their interpretation of the data is correct and essentially the direction that business should go in. So to this point, it seems like technology is very far from being able to do something like that. It could give you the data, right?
Yeah.
But how do you make a business decision based on what you're seeing? Because there's just so much more that goes into being able to identify these are the results. How do we go from here based on what we're seeing?
Yeah. Look, AI at the moment, you input your data, you prompt and try and get the most intelligent response from ChatGPT or from a Gen AI tool. So, if you look at the typical people that you work with in that particular space, let's say that they work in telco, and let's say they started in telco A and then did an entry-level job, went to telco B, learned from some unbelievable people that taught them insights and judgment and how to read data and how to understand it, particular to a segment or a sector, based on maybe within that range of experience that person has had access to the very best people that have ever worked in telco. And now he's making a decision, and we're measuring that against the machine where you insert your data and you ask and prompt and drive and make efficient. Who's going to give you the better answers there? I mean...
It's a very interesting time we're in, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Maybe not as interesting as people think.
I think the same.
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Ultimately, we got 7 billion of us running around the world. We're a planet full of people, and people remain most important despite everything that we're told we need to do and technology that gets sold to us.
But technology scares people.
Yeah, no, it scares me when you get as old as I am.
Yeah.
I still have problems logging onto different websites and getting onto portals and that kind of thing. But yeah, look, technology is scary, but we have to embrace it. We have to accept it's coming, accept there's some percentage change in terms of what we do, how we do it, and I think we need to embrace that.
You've been in the region here, what,
14 years.
14 years, right?
Yeah.
So this place has been going through dramatic change the last 50 to 60 years.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to make you feel like a dinosaur, but you've seen the birth of the internet.
Yeah.
Birth of AI.
Yeah.
And my question to you is...
The birth of computers.
The birth of computers, there you go.
Yeah.
Do you think companies are in a get on the train or get left behind moment when it comes to scaling something like AI across their entire enterprise? So we did this survey. This survey concluded 20% of businesses in the GCC are scaling at the enterprise-wide level, which means they've invested significantly to basically integrate AI across all their functions, which is a significant investment. Do you think the other 80% are getting left behind, or do you think it's too early to tell?
So we're still in the regions behind international levels with just over 45% scaling to enterprise level. Do I think that we're organizations that aren't scaling at enterprise level are being left behind. Well, if you look at the MIT survey that was done a couple of weeks ago, small university in America, they talked about 96% of organizations that have tried to scale AI to an enterprise level are failing, or they're failing to deliver any real operational improvements or any real saving in time and energy. So, like, I think if you look at the number here in the region, I think individuals are all using AI to make their jobs easier, etc. Is it a little early to jump into enterprise level AI? Possibly, if you accept what MIT are saying. It's foolhardy not to look at it, not to look at how it can improve what we do. But I think there's still time. There's a lot of time ahead. I think technology will catch up with what it's telling us it already can do. So I think there's plenty of time. But I think anyone that's not looking at it all is not going to be at the races, won't stay competitive, won't stay interesting. So yeah, I think it's plenty of time ahead. Plenty of time maybe for the technology to catch up, but I think there's still time.
Fair enough. What would you say to businesses who are confronted with the simple question of how is this useful and what's a bad idea? You know, every business has its own unique set of challenges and needs, so obviously we can't answer that for everyone. But if you're a business owner and you're looking at things like cost efficiency, automation, how do you even start to approach this question of, is this going to be useful for us, or is it going to backfire? Because it certainly seems, from what we found, that, for one, the idea that it's causing massive job loss is just not accurate with what we're seeing, right? There's 7% of respondents from the survey that say it's actually reported job loss. So, and
they're tiny percentages. Even within that 7%, it's between 0 and 4% job losses or not hiring based on the ability of technology. Look, I think if everyone looked at AI with how can we make every individual in the organization more efficient, significantly more efficient, more productive, better outputs, better returns to the business, I think that's a really good way to look at AI at the moment. If you look at it purely from a cost-saving point of view, I think it's back to front. And if you look at the reasons that organizations are developing AI at the moment, the vast percentage are looking for operation improvements, better user experience, better efficiencies around the productivity of staff. And then the fourth highest reason to invest in AI is as a cost reduction tool. So I think instead of thinking about the saving you can make in an organization, I think if you look at it, how can you improve revenues across the business through the use of AI, I think that's a much better way of looking at it.
We saw that for the multinationals, they have been more on the forefront of actually integrating this like across their entire business versus local businesses in the GCC. It says 7%, which is 6 times less than the 42% of MNCs. Why do you think that is?
I mean, I think there's probably, I think one, maybe multinationals as a category just flex quicker with budgets on any new technology, the quickest to go digital, the quickest to put their data in the cloud, the quickest to use AI. You know, it's just that they're always looking at the piece that keeps them as multinationals, large multinationals, right? So they're always looking for that 1%. I think here we're at a 7% enterprise scaling. I think organizations here maybe just a little bit more concerned around some of the risks or challenges with that. Well, there's a lot of pressure on boards to get AI embedded at enterprise level. I think that they're just a little bit more risk adverse, maybe. and maybe and a lot of organizations have done very well in a very buoyant economy. So maybe the focus is on growing revenue rather than the looking at how do I get my EBITDA from 14.6% to 15.5%. So maybe growth is more important than that saving piece that maybe AI has been seen initially. And that's probably borne out in the report that we've released. So look, I think we're I would say that probably at an individual level here, I'd say close to 100% of people, individuals, employees, are using AI.
For sure.
We do every day. We find it better results, better research, more interesting, different way of looking at things, better information. But as organizations here, maybe I think we're genuinely more concerned about growth and developing rather than that saving piece. But I think both can be done. Both can be incorporated together in a step-by-step process.
Yeah. Interesting about that in particular is that most of the people that are in charge of making that decision, whether AI will be integrated at an enterprise-wide level, these are usually your chief technology officers, your chief digital officers, people, say in their late 30s to mid 50s. These are people that know how to work with boards, people that really know how to assess strategic risks and business upside. And the curious thing about now is it seems it's pretty ambiguous in terms of being able to really assess what that upside looks like. Businesses understand that they need to use it, but to what extent is the difficult question to answer.
Yeah.
And then a funny thing is, as knowledgeable as these C-suite people may be, the people that are actually executing, so say like the data science directors, the people that actually lead the implementations who say would report to C-suite, these people have deeper technical knowledge than the people they report to, just because their entire careers have been based in that. So who do you think should be making those decisions in terms of are we going to use this as a company? Are we going to invest millions of dollars into doing this? Because that seems like a difficult thing to juggle too. Is it the guy who knows how to convince a board of directors and see things at a high level?
Yeah.
Or is it the people who really understand like the intricacies of like the inputs and outputs of say like a major implementation? It's a tricky question to answer.
Yeah, but you said the question so long, I've had plenty of time to think about it. I mean, personal view, I think that AI needs to be run by a business person. Because I don't believe that the technology to automate tasks and components of jobs is there yet. So I think a business person, probably at C-level, because you need someone that can get budget approvals and get board on board. But a committee that like every time we develop a new technology, you need technology people on a committee and you need business people on a committee. But I think it needs to be led by a business person, even not a chief technology officer. But maybe I would say that because I'm a business person and technology isn't my strong suit, right? So, because I think it is fundamentally an opportunity for businesses to be more efficient. And I think, of course, you need the AI prompt engineers, or you need the data scientists in terms of understanding what can be achieved with it. You need some programmers to program it so it sits between whatever it is, your SAP system or your ERP system, and the task that would have been done by us mere mortals, humans, right? So, and you need someone that understands how the business, what the output needs to be, the quality of the output, etc. And that needs to be tested because you can't depend on AI to make recommendations and make decisions that are implementable. You have to look at that. You have to look at where they're getting that data from, and you have to make some adjustments and corrections to what you know is reality rather than what AI is giving us as an answer. You can trick AI. You can question AI and ask it, and
You can, yeah.
and sometimes it'll apologize for getting something wrong. So it's still a tool, a very important tool. I'm not understating the future capability of AI. I'm just saying that right now we have to take it step by step. But for me, a business guy surrounded by smart technology guys and smart business guys to see how it can best support your business. And that depends on what type of sector you're in, the type of activities you have, etc. But the idea that a plumber will be changed by AI is just beyond my human capability to understand that. It's just not in my reckoning. I've been listening to. I mean, look, it's a thing that we have to recognize. It's a thing that we have to use, and we have to see how it's best for our own businesses and how that operates. Because again, I absolutely fundamentally believe if you don't do it, if you don't get involved and don't get into it, you will be left behind and you will not be competitive.
The day a robot plumber shows up at your door, you'll probably rescind that
that's
statement.
That's me turning over for the afterlife. But look, it's got its place, as it all did and all has. If you look at the previous large versions of technology and the digital era, which we're still in, the cloud era in terms of better security. Do we have better security now? I mean, the growth of cyber professionals to ensure data protection has skyrocketed. So we were presented a solution that we were told we must have. It was ridiculous to hold your data locally in a server anymore. Now it's created a whole raft of opportunities, and maybe AI will do the same thing. There'll be some wins, some big opportunities, some business wins, and it'll create a whole raft of new jobs that we can't even understand or perceive just yet.
The government here seems very keen to embrace this revolution. Next to MNCs, 20% of, or it's reported 20% of government entities or semi-government have scaled this at a enterprise-wide level. And that would cover sectors like smart cities, health.
Education, sure.
And it seems that they're very, much advocates for this and proponents. So I found that interesting. They definitely want to be proactive when it comes to this. And so, go ahead.
I mean, they look at what the UAE government and the Saudi government and generally the governments around the GCC look at what's happening now as a best practice worldwide, and then to look at how they advance that on. So because it's a relatively new economy, 54 years old this year, we have the benefit of all the lessons learned historically, and then we try and build on those. So super quick to embrace, particularly for a government, a public sector. So very quick to embrace and look at what's happening and then look at how to take advantage of what's there. And whether that's taking the best of the private sector or public sector and making it as their starting point and then advancing that. They've always been incredible at that. If you just look at some of the tech that we take for granted, some of the platforms, the ease of use, how you can get in your Emirates ID in such a short period of time. I think they're very good at that. I think some of the risks, or some of the reasons that it's not more than 20%, is that I think there's still some questions around risk and governance, data security, where this information is coming from, how our information is going to be used. So the idea is you you allow AI into your innermost workings and thinking, and then you allow it to help you to make things more efficient, operational effectiveness, and make smarter and better decisions. So governments, rightly so, are making sure that their data still sits within their ecosystem and it's not shared with anyone else. And I think as soon as some of those concerns are overcome, I think you'd see potentially a lot more government drive around AI and what they do at government level. Creating chief AI officer level positions shows you at the highest level to see how important this is.
Switching gears slightly, but still kind of tying into that. On a personal level, in terms of how it impacts human capital, it goes without saying, if you rely heavily on AI for tasks and for doing a lot of the work, you're using less of your actual brain in a lot of situations. It becomes easier to delegate certain things, which in some cases is great, right? In terms of when it comes to administrative things. But one thing I wonder about, we can't really track cognitive decline, right? When it comes to human capital. But is the increased usage of all this going to make people less strategic? And what I mean by that is when you become more reliant on a machine to do most of your thinking, that does weaken your ability to think in a sense, because it's like the brain's a muscle. So
of course
you
need to flex it.
You need to flex it, and if you're always relying on that little rectangle to do your thinking for you, you're in a sense becoming dumber. And not that there isn't a way to find a good middle ground, but I just wonder if things continue trending where more and more things are automated, how does that impact the effectiveness of people, especially like in senior positions?
I mean, calculators probably stopped us from being as good as we used to be before calculators to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Computers arguably made us worse at spelling. I can read a map just about.
I can't read a map.
But if I was forced through my schooling to get good at that stuff, and you get good at it. Now people aren't good at it, maybe because they've got other options that lessen that flex of the brain. Look, I think AI. Reducing repetitive tasks and taking away that just constant, and we all have it in our job. If we look at every piece of our work on a daily basis, there's a lot of repetition there, and you and I have already seen how AI gets rid of some of that repetition. But the workplace evolves. So I now say, Michael, or you say to me, okay, so this piece that used to take you 10 minutes is now taking you 30 seconds. So here's 5 or 6 other things that you could be doing in those 8 or 9 minutes that actually could flex your brain more, slightly more challenging, more thought-provoking, maybe more interesting, hopefully. So maybe it's not important that we know how to do long division anymore. But it's more important that we know how to tell stories, how to hold a conversation, how to relay a piece of information in a particular way to a particular individual, and to build trust and earn trust and deliver on certain things that will actually flex our brains and our brain muscle to a point that might be better for all of us. So, look, it's for me. I don't really see that as being the biggest challenge. I think it's a challenge, but I think as a region we've always been good about the minute something is a little bit more efficient, as are the multinationals, as something is a bit more efficient, then we can probably put a task or two in there to make it more interesting.
That's a good point.
I hope.
You free up time. You
Yeah.
use that time more.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And look, does that lead into or feed into how we can work 4 days a week and get the same productivity? I know it's been tested in Sharjah for the last period of time. Possibly. I know some of the government entities in the UAE have had 4-day weeks during the summer period to give people a bit more quality time at home with their kids. I think that's interesting. Or maybe it's just to drive better performance. If you and I perform better, our revenues go up, we get rewarded more. That's also interesting. So you could see it on one side, getting that work-life balance piece maybe a bit more lined up. And on the other side, you could see it just being able to make us all more efficient and maybe more profitable centres.
Agreed. You think it's too early to identify, which industries have more of a competitive advantage if they implement this or not? I mean, this ties into everything we're saying, but it seems like from our report, and even when you talk to different businesses, these things like boosting efficiencies, automation, saving time, really automating a lot of those administrative things that free up maybe more strategic time. Those are things that are important to everyone. But, do you think we've reached a point where we can say this particular industry would have a significant competitive advantage over their competitors if they're using this or not?
Yeah.
I think that question's hard to answer for most still.
Yeah, I think so. I just refer back to the MIT survey again, and they talked about the two sectors that are seeing good return on the investment that they've made are the technology sector and the healthcare sector. So if the technology has been developed to really allow AI to make improvements there, and you're behind the curve, you're in trouble. Healthcare is very localized as well. Like if we have 10 hospitals in your neighborhood and none of them have developed AI, well then it doesn't matter. But if one has and it's more efficient and more efficient, and there is a mechanism where we can see that lower costs. Do we see hospitals reducing their costs if they're gaining efficiencies using AI to look at x-rays or look at medical reports and give really quick diagnostic feedback? I haven't seen that anywhere yet. So it's in that instance that it could become very important to have AI embedded into your organization at enterprise level. But if everyone is using it and there's no cost saving, no advantage. But if you're one out of the 10 that isn't using it and everyone else is getting the advantage, that's a problem. So, but most aren't. Most of the sectors in the MIT survey saw no improvements, with a 96% failure rate in terms of what AI is giving from an operational efficiency point of view. Not even a cost saving, just improving the operation. Because, again,
on a personal level, what's it been like for you to see this kind of ramp up with technology, throughout your lifetime? Because I was born in the early 90s.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
95?
Early 90s.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. 99.
It was a good year.
Actually, 93.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
It feels like what like 2000 compared to 2025 seems decades ago. I mean, it's 25 years ago, but just in terms of the type of things we enjoy today,
Yeah.
the technological comforts, social media, the way how far the internet has advanced,
Yeah.
which has all its pros and cons, but I guess compared to the innovations of, say, 1970s through early 2000s, you know, there's obviously been a lot more change in just the last 2.5 decades, right?
Yeah.
So what's
Yeah.
that been like for you? Does that make you,
Feel old?
well, you're born in the 90s, so
Yeah.
you're not that old.
Yeah.
But how does it impact your perspective on all this and your bias?
So my first job was in the early 90s, just before you were born. No computers.
Was this like a Jordan Belfort type Wolf of Wall Street office? The
Not in terms
Scranton,
in terms of the behaviors or the activities, but it was, everything was written down on paper and recorded and etc. Right. Then we had computers, and then we had laptops, then we had mobiles, then we had internet, then we had Y2K, then we had
LinkedIn.
and we had many other tools. And if you look at it from a personal level, I've worked in search for 25 years, just under 25 years now, and there's, the death of recruiters. When a job board like Monster came out in the UK, and then it was something else, and then it was something else, and then it was LinkedIn, then it was something else. And look, at the reality is that the job changes, but the need for the job remains equally strong, right? And I see AI as exactly the same. Fundamentally, through all those 3 and a bit decades, the technology that came through, whether it was recruitment or in general work, I worked in procurement and engineering before getting into search. There's always this technology that's coming in, is going to change everything. The arrival of Oracle or SAP or Microsoft or Office, etc. All of those things, and some happened, and the promise was that this would change incredibly what we did. It changed where we put stuff, how we stored stuff, how we looked for stuff. But it didn't change the person needing to do all that, right? So I worked in an engineering company coming out of uni, and you learned in a different way. You just got taught things in a different way. You had books and manuals you had to read, and now we've search, we use Google or whatever, and then we use ChatGPT or whatever your flavor of the month is around a Gen AI tool. Yeah, it's better and it's more efficient, but the need for the human to go find it and get the answer and get that answer to the right person to make a decision about something, it still exists.
A thriving industry as a result of that, which will continue, I'm sure, to create that need for itself.
Of course. Yeah. Look, I think it's, back to our survey that we did, when we asked people what kind of jobs were going to be created through AI, people talked about, AI trainers, prompt engineers, data scientists. And for me, that's how embryonic this AI revolution is. That they're the only things that we can see will be required, because we're looking at it through a lens of this is where we are at the moment rather than what the future looks like. I think that in terms of when the technology catches up and is developed in a way that we can say, dear ChatGPT or dear Gen AI, create me something, and it actually produces that to the quality of what we believe it should look like. I think in that case, there'll be so many other jobs that we can't even envisage yet that will
Right.
be required to make that happen. I've got a nephew going through his university days at the moment. He's doing computer science, and in his third year of the university, one of the biggest universities in the world, have changed a course to AI and computer science, and that's frankly that's education's typical way to cope with this new thing that they don't know what it means, don't know where it's going to. Sorry, they know what it means, but they don't know where it's going to get to, and that's fair because I don't know where it's going to get to. I still think we're at the beginning of that curve, and that curve, as we go through it, will lead to a lot of stuff, a lot of new requirements, a lot of new skills to make it happen.
Do you think for the future workforce, say for your nephew's generation or even younger,
Yeah.
do you think they will face the challenge of being able to think more strategically or say more independently without relying on these kinds of tools? We can all agree that AI is going to solve a lot of our problems, already is when it comes to the administrative things, the things we were talking about that free up time. But if you're 8 or 9 years old growing up in today's world, how do you develop that sense of being able to really think for yourself? It seems like a difficult thing.
Yeah.
Because I remember life before the internet, as do you. You're born in the 90s.
Yeah.
So the world was a different place then. And I feel fortunate that I was part of that last generation that got to know what it was like to be outside as kids all the time. Not of course there's kids enjoying that today, but free of the the electrical distractions. It's an interesting thing.
It's a pondering question. Probably starts with good parenting. Everything in good measure in terms of how much screen time kids should have. My kids are Roblox mad at the moment, but we reduced that down to a fraction of an amount of time that they can use and be on their iPads and get screen time. Look, it's probably just a more important time for parents and for the educational institutes to be aware that allowing boredom, allowing imagination to kick in, allowing for free thought and good thinking and good dialogue and being able to do those things and create human bonds. I definitely, you maybe to a lesser extent, didn't have an alternative. So it's just get out and do it. Now parents have to make the decision: do I allow my kid to be on the iPad all day, or do I mean, outside is a funny thing in the summer here because there's no outside time, but free of those, a device, free of anything that allows you to think about just what you're watching. So that's decision time for parents, decision time for us to make sure that our kids are growing up with those ability to make decisions, ability to influence, ability to tell stories. I'm a big I like my stories, and making sure that they have those skills. And that's not telling them how to tell stories, it's just allowing them to figure that out for themselves.
Right.
Some people are great storytellers, others tell terrible stories and shouldn't ever try and practice them. But it's just to give them the freedom away from those things that are very important for the future generation, no doubt.
Right.
Yeah.
It's allowing them to build that ability to do it.
Yeah.
And you only learn how to do that by walking a certain path.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah.